This is my legacy. Welcome to our bonus episodes dropping every Thursday. Today, more from our interview with sports journalist and truth teller Jemele Hill and her husband Ian Wallace, featuring moments you didn't hear in the main episode. Let's jump right in.
Even though she's the one who said, I love you
I
first.
did not say it first. It was you. Oh, my goodness.
So here's the story, and I think it was just a bit of a disconnect. Mm-hmm. We were in Dallas, and this was probably, maybe 4 months into meeting each other, and she was leaving out, and I said I love you jokingly, and she thought I was
and
really
I took it serious.
Is
that
she
what
wanted
we're
me to
going
be
with?
serious.
No. He totally said it because I called my girl and told her, I was like, girl, he said he loved me or whatever. So
yeah,
okay.
So you threw out a I love you as a joke. like love you.
Context is everything.
Okay.
She was leaving for work, and we were playing house that weekend because we were in a long distance relationship. So it was just a kind of a funny thing.
Well, I thought he was serious, and so it wasn't like him. I kind of had the same approach when we started to get to know each other. I wasn't looking for a relationship either. I wasn't looking to fall in love. Which I guess, again, since I'm giving out pro tips, another thing, usually when you're not trying is when it happens, right? And so neither one of us were in the space where we were looking for something super serious. But as we spent more time together, we just were having so much fun with one another. And the connection was really seamless. And, I knew for sure that I knew for sure that I loved you when we went to the ESPYs together. I think that was right around the time where I was just like, okay, this is a feeling that's not going to be going away because, we were dating, but we didn't put any boundaries necessarily. We didn't have that will you go with me conversation quite yet. So we were dating for almost a year by the time we had that conversation, which I will openly admit I was the one who introduced this conversation. It was me. I told him, he came to Connecticut to visit me. It was right around his birthday. And I said, listen, I don't want to play around anymore.
I want you.
I was smooth with it, I think.
But Jemele is hard to read. So, while I knew she had feelings for me, it almost came out of nowhere. But I was happy.
Yes, I told him, I was like, hey, I'm ready to do this for real. So, if you got some little situations you need to take care of on the side, you tell them their time is over. Okay. So I definitely was the one who broached and asked him about hey, I think we should try to do this for real and be in a relationship.
You've said Ian makes you laugh and makes your spirit lighter. What does he do to make you laugh?
Ooh, I get to snitch on him a little bit. Okay. Or brag on him, I should say. He has a tremendous sense of humor. Babe, you're really funny.
You're very joyful. I mean, I could say the smallest thing and you're laughing. You have a lot of joy.
I do, but you're funny. So it's not just that I don't laugh at everybody's jokes like that. It's you. So
yeah, I am kind of fun.
No, but he has a great sense of humor, a real zest for life. I mean, another one of our sort of common love languages is that we both like to travel. And so we spend a lot of our free time traveling to different places. He has an explorer and adventurous spirit, and it's really contagious and infectious. And, just in little things that he does every day, he likes to roast me quite a bit, which, and so I always find this to be, kind of funny and endearing. My husband is also super playful. I know women out there can identify with this, is that there is this thing that happens inside of a relationship where at some point your husband just wants to treat you like a younger sibling. They want to wrestle you. They want to I'm like, what?
But here's the thing, Jemele. You act like you don't like it, but you like it. It's one of those things.
He tickles me. I was like, okay. So, I mean, neither one of us grew up with, we have siblings, but we didn't grow up with them necessarily in our house, and they're not close in age. So I feel like you're getting all of that sort of older sibling energy out on me.
But you like it.
It is, well, I'll say this, and I think women can also relate to this, is they do it there's nothing you could do about it. But when they stop doing it, you're like, hey, what's wrong? Because you haven't tried to put me in a full Nelson today. I don't know what's going on. So, but yeah, his sense of humor, the lightness, those were all things that I love because, as you all know, especially when you're in the brand of media that I'm in, I talk about sports, of course, but I talk a lot about the intersection with sports with social justice, culture, gender, race. Those are heavy subjects. And I think because of what I talk about, a lot of people think that I'm a super serious person all the time. But he is able to tap into that lightness that I have and the fact that, yes, I am a joyful person and I do have a good sense of humor. And he has all of those qualities as well. And so it just adds a sort of a lightness to our relationship that is really endearing and important to me.
People ask us a lot of times, all three of us, because like you just said, Jamel, the work that we do, and particular in this time, is so heavy. So it's very important to have the time and space to laugh, to make sure every day that you're finding something to laugh about, which I used to be more serious by nature.
Amen.
I've become funnier, but it's and I'm just
Amen to that.
Yeah, very funny.
And when you have given tributes, you said that Martin is part of the reason he's helped to like that. You have.
Martin, he'll say that I'm funny because of him. But it also reminds
Martin's
me.
glowing to our listeners who can't see this one. He's not saying a word. He's just sitting there smiling.
And even during the civil rights movement, I think people are surprised to find out that, first of all, that your father actually had a sense of humor.
Yeah.
And brought a sense of laughter and lightness to the house. And then even, amongst, people on the road with them, and they would find ways to laugh.
And, Dad is seen as extraordinarily serious, but as a minister, I guess you're always bringing humor to life experiences. So while the public didn't necessarily see that, all of his colleagues, including, others who happened to be around would see that. And I guess it's, some of the things they joke about would make one think, you're joking about this? But if they didn't, I'm not sure how they would have made it through it.
It's interesting because I think it was last year I was asked to be in a documentary about your father that focused on his relationship with basketball and about how he used basketball to connect with people. And I thought it was a great perspective and a great entry point into talking about his legacy. Because, it's sort of hard for people to imagine, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. playing basketball. Yeah. And I think I made the joke during the interview, was he out there hooping in church shoes? What did his jumper look like? I need to know this, But it is, just what you said is that you have to have some levity, even in the seriousness of it. And we see this from Black people all the time. You see it on social media. It'll be the most serious situation, and the jokes that our community will have is a way of us trying to balance out something that might be terrifying with also saying hey, we can't stay in a constant state of being paralyzed in fear. So let's just get these jokes off right now and try to diffuse the situation a little bit.
And one thing I would like to add as well, because just like you, Jamel, I love all of our conversations on this podcast. I think we're incredibly blessed to have such phenomenal guests. One of the things that I love the most about this conversation is the celebration and the look into Black love. I think that a few years ago in Boston, there was a monument that was dedicated to Martin's parents, that here you had on the oldest public park,
the Boston Commons,
and you had this monument to Black love. And that conversation was missed. And so it's wonderful to have this conversation and to celebrate you all and to celebrate Black love.
Yeah, I would even take it a step further and say I think that part of the story of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., the love that he shared with Coretta Scott King is a major component that I think often gets overlooked. And having done extensive reading, I read Coretta Scott King's the biography she wrote. I read it maybe 5 or 6 years ago, and it was very eye opening. And I think generally the appreciation for the woman that she was gets often overlooked. But their story is a love story.
Like, follow, and subscribe to the My Legacy podcast. And most importantly, share this with someone who needs a reminder of their strength today.
I think in today's world where athletes have a direct connection with their fans through social media, that they have the power to be able to engage them, especially in this moment. The problem is that for as active and aware as athletes were in 2020,
I was going to ask this question.
Yeah, it's like they were engaged in a different way. Now, there were some factors that were unique that were helping this engagement. Number one, you had in the NBA and the WNBA, they were both in a bubble. So when the WNBA players, when they organized against Kelly Loeffler, they were all together in one place. The former senator of Georgia, and they got Reverend Raphael Warnock elected. They collectively came together. It helped that they were all in the same place, and they single-handedly, changed things in Georgia. And more so, it is because we had the tie in Senate that Kamala Harris was, able to break with her deciding vote. That's how we got Ketanji Brown Jackson as a Supreme Court justice, is because of that. Because those athletes decided to put their voice and their power behind Reverend Raphael Warnock. That's how we got Ketanji Brown Jackson. So I say that to use that example so that athletes understand that they are sitting on an incredible amount of power, especially in this moment. And while in many ways it is often unfair to ask them to sacrifice for what they have, or at least put on the line what they have worked for their whole careers, because I bring up the Atlanta Dream, who were the ones that created that protest that went widespread throughout the WNBA. Kelly Loeffler was a owner of the Atlanta Dream. They were effectively turning a campaign against their boss. Okay, the person writing their checks. That could have turned out all bad for them. And we're talking about women who, as we have seen with their WNBA salaries, they're nowhere close to what men in the NBA make. So they were putting a lot on the line, and they can now look back and see that they changed history by doing that. And so my concern is that athletes now, especially because we're in such a challenging moment, they're thinking more about the loss and not about the opportunity to really do something that could change the course of history.
Now, here we are in 2025, and it seems, because for any type of perceived progress, there's always an inevitable backlash, right? So even now, whereas in, 5 years ago, you saw more engagement with athletes, it was safer, if you will, to do so. It was more, on trend. We're in a different era now. So what would you say to athletes that are maybe pondering how to use their voice and their power in now 2025?
Well, I would say, again, I think it's always unfair to sort of ask them just because I know the work that goes into it. But let's just look at what's happening on college campuses, where you have a number of them, most recently University of Michigan, eliminated all their DEI programs. And 2 years ago, this university won the national championship in football. If you are an athlete thinking about, especially a black athlete thinking about going to University of Michigan, they have sent you the signal that they are more than fine for you to make money for them, win championships for them, entertain them. They are not fine with you actually being a full participant at this university, or other people that look like you that don't have the talent, the football talent that you have. And that's never been a problem for America. I mean, you open, throughout our history, Americans have always been comfortable with black people entertaining them. Like, they've never, even through times of slavery, they've never not been comfortable with us in that position. So the question I would ask some of these athletes is, if that's the only value that you have to them, then how do you think that they're looking at the people who cannot provide the same value that you can? And I think it's a real moment for a lot of athletes to assess their relationship with these colleges and universities who are making it quite clear that they only have room for black people in a specific way. Because when they talk about DEI, even though we're not the main ones who benefit, and I realize that that's a fraught relationship, they use us as the poster child for it to get people to turn against it. And so I would love for these athletes to ask the question of like, oh, well, if I'm not good enough to be at your university and I'm not a player, then I'm not good enough to perform this service for you, right? Like you don't bring up DEI when it comes to football, that's for sure, nor college basketball. And these are billion-dollar industries. And with what's happening at the funding and more pressure being put on universities to capitulate to this administration, they need football and they need college basketball. So there's an automatic point of leverage. So all I know is that a few years ago, there was a running back at Ole Miss who was their best running back. And he told the school, I am not going to play unless you do something about that Confederate flag. And what do you think they did? They did something about the flag because they're not trying to lose any money through sports. They certainly aren't, donors. They put up these pretty buildings on campus because they love the sports teams. So there's an automatic leverage that these athletes have that they have to use.
Do you find yourself studying activism as well? Because you talked a lot earlier about a lot of your inspirations and mentorships as it relates to journalism, your teachers. And since you've had such a very strong activist, whether it's intentional or not, and I'm curious, like, have you studied activism and sports or throughout your career?
Yeah, it was organic, really, because the sports world often drags you into these things. It's like, I didn't know a Colin Kaepernick was going to happen, and it happened. And so then as these things, and he wasn't the first person to do it, but as these things happen, it's like you have to be able to build the institutional knowledge. Like, of course, like anybody, I was certainly aware of the legacy of Muhammad Ali and Arthur Ashe and Althea Gibson and Wilma Rudolph and Jesse Owens and Jack Johnson. Like I was aware of those things, but your job as a journalist is to be able to connect those things between what happened then to what's happening now. Because as much as we like to believe that these things are new under the sun, we just don't repeat. These things are not new under the sun. And as you all mentioned a moment ago, is that every point in American history where there has been tremendous progress, the backlash has far outweighed the progress that was made. I mean, Reconstruction is probably the greatest example, of this. Reconstruction got us Jim Crow, right? And so it's like there was a time, every time we reach these inflection points where we can literally change America into something that is closer to the vision that we all want to see, we go the opposite direction. So as journalists, we have to make people understand that and also make them understand why does that keep happening. Our job is to provide context. And so that when somebody looks back on this time, they can understand what this time was like and what it meant. Because certainly I go back and read Ida B. Wells. And if not for her, the godmother of journalism, we would never have understood not just lynching, but I think the all-out assault and what was intended to essentially eliminate, subjugate, denigrate black men in particular, right? We would not have understood so much of the psychology of how this country not just felt about black people, but about black men in particular. And so that's how I see my role as a journalist. And not that I'll ever be Ida B. Wells, but that's what we're supposed to do. Like, you need people who are willing to do this difficult work in wartime. It's really easy to do it in peacetime. It is so much harder to do it in wartime, but it's more significant when you do it now, because there is so much right now that's coming at us on a daily basis, and it feels like people are feeling like they want to lay down because of the barrage of the volume of it. And I understand why people still have not gotten over what happened in the election and we've been dealing with this onslaught since this administration took hold. But this is actually the time where we need to do the very opposite of what we want to do. And I get it, everybody's tired. But, you know, hey, I mean, Harriet didn't get tired. That's all I can say. She went through a lot worse.
Did you hear my speech in January? Because you're talking my talking points. I talked about how I had seen all the memes about black women saying, look, we're tired. You know, we did our part, but we don't have the luxury to do that.
We don't. And as much as sometimes it feels, we had to get that out of our system. Mm-hmm. We had to vent that because we were so frustrated. Mm-hmm. But the reality is, like, none of our ancestors laid down on us. Like, we can't do that. As much as this country deserves us to check out, we can't actually do that. It would be disrespectful to certainly your father's legacy and, like, the legacy of all these terrific ancestors who have gotten us to this point.
Thank you for joining us. If you enjoyed today's conversation, subscribe, share, and follow us at My Legacy Movement on social media. New episodes drop every Tuesday with bonus content every Thursday. Until next time, may you find inspiration to live your legacy.